while I record my podcast. And I'm hoping that I'm sitting close enough to that. I swear what's going to happen is I'm going to get it set right, and then I'm going to have to move it again, and that's going to drive me bonkers. Okay. Let's see. Because it looks like we're about to get it started. I might just switch to the regular light. Okay, that's super bright. Let's try one more. And how about turning it down just a smidge? Do we like that light yet? I don't know. It's really hard when I'm doing this, and it's like I gotta wear that over the ear headset and stuff because of the microphone that I got. So like, this is never a good look. You just look like a freaking an astronaut or some kind of weirdo. You know what I mean? Okay, I gotta pump myself up. Like, I need a hype person. That's what I need. I need a hype person that gets everybody hyped up before I start recording and shit. That's what I need. All right, let's kick back, smoke real quick, and then get the podcast rolling. So again, that's a sound check, testing, 1, 2. They both working, and they don't like no feedback. Quote the great Joe Dirt. Okie dokie. Always gotta smoke. I have some major anxiety. Major is a very big understatement. Especially here of late, because like my housing situation is literally about as unstable as it has ever been in my entire life. Um, I'm constantly having to deal with drama when I'm at the house that I do stay at, um, which is my ex's house. For those of you that don't know, quick little recap: I live with my ex. We were together for like 7, almost 8 years. But I live in the basement. Me and him have been split up for a while now. But everything was cool until here recently. And just a bunch of bullshit has happened, and it's kind of chaotic. The fact that I even get any of this shit done is literally nothing short of a miracle. And I'm not even trying to toot my own horn. I'm just stating the facts. The fact that I get anything done, edited and uploaded at all, really is nothing short of a miracle. So, but it's really the one thing that I have that like is kind of like my getaway from all the craziness, and then like also to just escape the trauma that I'm still processing, going through, that I've had happen over my lifetime. And I'm not that old. I mean, I'm really not. But if you think about it in terms of like some of these things have happened in my life, and I'm almost 40. I'm almost 40. I'm not even ashamed to tell you how old I am. I'm almost 40. My birthday's coming up in December. Um, but dealing with the trauma, first of all, not even understanding some of it as trauma, then figuring that out, then having to process that. Uh, it's a lot of shit. It's a lot of shit, and it's even more so shit when it's the trauma has occurred through something like a family member, a loved one, significant other, whatever. You know what I mean? For example, I did not even understand. And I still don't see it necessarily as a trauma per se because, well, having a kid at 15 is traumatic. It doesn't matter how you deal with it at that time or how you deal with it later on in life when you realize that it's traumatic. It's traumatic nonetheless. 15-year-old girls are not supposed to have babies. 14-year-old girls are not supposed to have babies. They're not supposed to get pregnant. That's not how it works. Or not that's not how it was intended. At least that is my thought process because you don't even have a fully developed brain until you're 25. So if you have kids at the age of 15, that's 10 years short of you being a fully grown, developed human with a fully functioning, developed brain. So what makes you think you can possibly begin to know how to conduct yourself, let alone how to teach another human how to conduct themselves in the process of you still growing up? Because you still got 10 more years. Remember, if you get pregnant and you have a kid at 15, you still got 10 more years before you're even an adult. So you're basically growing up with that kid. Did I understand that at the time that I had a child? Fuck no. I didn't understand that until all of my kids were born. And then I had a grandchild on the way. That's when I was like, oh, fuck. And my kid wasn't even as young as me when she got pregnant. She went up to me in that. She went up to me in a couple of ways when it comes to that. She got married before she graduated. She still graduated. All that good stuff. She was a little bit older than I was. But still, it's traumatic. I'm sure even for her at her age, having a child is traumatic. Having two children is probably traumatic. I'm sure it's traumatic. Having a child, I feel like no matter what age you are, no matter how prepared you are for it, is traumatic. And then when you factor in things like other traumas that have probably, in my opinion, no doubt led me to the behavior that caused me to get pregnant as young as I did, um, it can really kind of weigh on you sometimes in your day-to-day life. I mean, perfect example of like reoccurring trauma or PTSD that I deal with on a day-to-day basis or somewhat day-to-day basis. Um, when I was younger, I was essayed and it happened not too far from where I live right now. There are times where traveling to and fro, I have to drive right by where that happened. That brings up a little bit of PTSD that I have to deal with when that happens. So, like, yeah, it's a lot of shit that one person could, and so we never really know what anybody's dealing with in their day to day life. And that's why I do the podcast and do take the time every once in a while to look back, reflect, and try to change things about myself that I feel like I could improve on. So, you know, now that I've spent almost 8 to 10 minutes going off right here, let's get this in the podcast. And now we're doing that. Hello, welcome, subby squatters, newbie nons, and lovers of all things Gigi or Embers. Welcome back. It is Gigi's Midnight Rants. Whether it's evening, afternoon, or early morning, this will always be Gigi's Midnight Rants because most likely I recorded it at night. However, this episode is actually a nooner. uh, I spent like almost 8 minutes off off the air here talking about some things that happened, some things that just I've noticed over the last couple of years in my life, um, especially the last couple of years. When I say last couple of years, I definitely mean within the last 3 to 5. Things that I've learned about myself, about trauma, about dealing with trauma, how to deal with trauma, sometimes how not to deal with trauma, being mindful of other people, and like I was saying right before I went on, you never really know what any one person may be dealing with in their um, their day-to-day life. Um, so, just try to keep that in the back of your head when you're reacting to something or someone who's kind of, you know, giving you a fuss or maybe rubbed you the wrong way or whatever. Gosh, I really do hope that my audio works good this time because last time I was recording, I had recorded this whole episode. I recorded a video along with the podcast while I was recording the podcast, and there was something wrong with my reverb in my microphone. There was like an echo through the headset, and the audio was good on the video, but the audio wasn't good in the podcast. But I accidentally deleted the video, so I had to just scrap that whole thing and re-record it. Um, and while all that was going on, there's been a lot of stuff come up with true crime. The Shabusiness case come back, Amirowitz come back, and then we have trials coming up. There's another one that gets started soon. I was really hoping they were going to put Shabusiness on the stand. They didn't. I mean, watching her from the sidelines was enough. I can totally see why she was laughing during the testimony of that one guy because he literally said chopping it up. And it's like, bro, do you, which I learned last night, there is actually a whole thing behind chopping it up. And if you want to see more of that, you'll have to watch Chilling with Sasquatch this Saturday. I think it's this Saturday. I keep saying that because sometimes he does stuff on Thursday. He's got like 3 days that he does stuff. And last night I was chilling with him. We pre-recorded that. And when I say chilling, obviously I don't mean literally side by side chilling with him at his house or him chilling with me here. I mean chilling in StreamYard, chit-chatting it up. And he schooled me. Every time I hang out with him, I learn something new. That's why I call him Papa Squatch, because he's just like, like a second dad to me. I definitely look up to that guy. I have mad respect for him. I have mad respect for a lot of the other YouTubers that I have either collabed with, interacted with, or subscribed, including Jason Brashears from Archaics. If you are into like ancient antiquities and stuff like that, Anunnaki, Sumerian stuff, like all of that, then I highly recommend you check out his channel. It's just he's done a lot of research over the last several years and put a lot into that research, and it's got some really, really good stuff. And I think he's written like 12 books. Um, so, and if you're watching the video of this, I just made some really funny faces at the camera because, like, you'll just have to watch that over there because there's a whole nother backstory with the Brashears and me and another YouTuber that have been having a back and forth for quite some time now because I feel like people do deserve second chances. Even people that have committed certain offenses. And before you get your panties in a flippin' wad and say, how could you say that? You must not understand. You don't know what those victims have been through. Yes, unfortunately, I do and can relate to some of the things some victims have been through because I have been. However, I want to make a very clear distinction between so the reason why I am supportive of Jason, despite what I've learned uh, of his past, is for multiple reasons. For one, he's not tried to hide that. He's also continued since being released. And I want to add, it's not my business to tell. So if you want to know, you just have to go do the research yourself. However, he did a crime. He had been sentenced to like, I think it was 30 years or something like that. He served 20 of those 30 years and continues to comply with whatever has been asked of him since his release. Parole, probation, whatever it is they've asked him to do, he does. My perpetrator, however, was charged for crimes committed against his own daughter and was given an extremely light sentence considering the situation, was released, committed the same crime offenses again on somebody else's children, was sentenced again. And last time I went and looked it up to see if he was on the registry, I could not find him on the registry, nor could I find him listed as an inmate in this state. So I don't know. Well, if he's not listed as an inmate in this state, it's probably because he's been released again. I'm assuming the amount of time since that happened and has passed that he's probably done his time and been released again, um, unless they moved him to a federal prison elsewhere because they sentenced him to longer. Um, if not, and he's been released, he's certainly not complying with this state in regards to what he has to do. And so that is why I feel the way I feel about certain people and YouTubers and stuff that I follow. That's the reason why I feel the way I feel. Because I do believe people deserve second chances, depending on the nature, the severity, and the situation surrounding the crime. Because we're humans and we're not perfect. And while there are a lot of us that don't commit crimes, go through our whole life without committing a crime at all, there are some of us that just happen to go through shit in life. And sometimes we get bullied by the cops. And why do I say bullied? Because I literally know what that's like to be bullied by the cops, to go to jail for shit you didn't do. And I know some people say this, but I can literally prove everything I'm saying. I couldn't make this shit up if I tried. So, like, and I honestly, like, I have no reason to lie about any of this stuff. I have no reason to lie and make up a whole ass story saying I'm a criminal if I wasn't a criminal, because honestly, I'm not a criminal. Although, if you look at my background, it's going to appear as though I have been participating in some criminal activities, such as trespassing. That charge right there, in and of itself, I'll have to go into another rant some other time about, because it's about the stupidest fucking crime or alleged crime I think you can possibly be accused and or convicted of, charged with or convicted of, and I've served time for that multiple times. In fact, the majority of my incarcerations have been due to trespassing. Not something I'm proud of. Also, not something I'm going to get pushed around or walked all over for is my rights. So that's why I do try to instill in my kids and other people too that don't know so much about the rights that they have. And this is just pertaining to being a U.S. citizen, because I'm in the United States. And I do not know the laws in other countries. Like, I don't even claim to know the laws of other countries. For example, I just learned last night about the drinking ages in other countries. And America's um, is the oldest I've seen. You have to be 21 to be legal drinking age in America. Other countries, I think I've seen as young as 9. I think Russia is like 10. Mexico is like 11. So yeah, I'm just talking about the law in America. I do believe in people getting second chances. Like I said, given the circumstances, the nature of the crime, and all that. There's crimes, like literally one in particular right off the top of my head that, like, I'm so sorry, and I know people are going to disagree with me on this because the perpetrator is underage. Um, but what we do know, and this is just a little bit that we know about the crime, because we don't know like any more details than the few that we do know. And the few details that we do know about the crime are so absolutely horrific. I'm not even going to mention them in the podcast. Um, but the perpetrator, like I said, is an underage child, over the age of 12, but under the age of 18. And like I said, the circumstances of the crime and the are just so horrendous. And because he has far reached the age of accountability, I do not feel like it is ever going to be safe for him to be let out in society. I don't care how much therapy he goes through. Um, just like I said, there's things, like there's levels to that shit, and when it starts off at it starts out like this and something happens horrible and a life is taken, yeah. um I'm sorry, you don't really get a free pass on that. I don't. And as far as I know, like, yes, this kid grew up with a horrible, evil man as a father. He wasn't evil to his son, but he had done and said some very disgusting things, which could have potentially influenced the boy to commit the crime that he did. However, again, individually, as a young man with the ability to know right from wrong, he knew this was wrong. He admitted that he knew that it was wrong, that he knew he was going to do it, and all. I mean, it's just, you can't, I don't think there's any way to redeem yourself from that, especially when the victim was a relative of yours. There's just, I just don't see how you can come back from that. So again, like I said, there's levels to that stuff, but I do believe in certain situations people should be allowed um, to get second chances and to try to do something to make a life for themselves. People fuck up. We make mistakes. We're only human. Apparently, there's a creator on YouTube that thinks he's the next thing to Jesus Christ, um, and commits no sins and passes judgment on everybody all the time. And that's kind of where the core of this podcast rant came from, was like shit that I've been dealing with on my YouTube channel. Um, and this other creator, and the shit that he says, I'm just sitting there thinking, so, like, why do you think that what you're doing is okay when you're sitting there trashing people? Yet you claim that you don't trash people, but like you're sitting there just bashing people, and doing these reaction videos of other creators where you're just bashing them, and that's okay. But as soon as someone tries to take up for any of them, then you want to bring up their past and dig up dirt on them from like 20 plus years ago. Or like you just, with me, for example, he just makes fun of me and tries to belittle me and tear me down, um, emotionally and verbally, um, which I grew up being bullied like a lot in elementary school and part of middle school. So like I have a thick skin. Also in some of my adult life relationships, I've had a lot of negative talk to me. So that doesn't really faze me. And I don't really care if people want to try to dig up my past either, because I know what I did and it is what it is. And the people that are around me, that support me, that love me, know the truth about the situation. And that's all I need to know at the end of the day. So I don't need validation from him. However, it just does bother me when I see people out there claiming that they're doing good and that they're like, oh, they're so great, and they're woke, or what the fuck ever he's claiming he is. I don't know, because he bounces back and forth off the wall so many times, calls people pedos, but then he sits there and he makes these videos where he's got little finger puppets and shit like that. And I'm like, I'm sorry, I don't know adults that watch finger puppet shows. So how is that not geared to kids? And how is that not creepy? How do you not see that as creepy? I'm just curious. Let me know your thoughts, please. After this show, I'm just gonna leave a post. What are your thoughts on finger puppets? Do you think that that is appropriate to have in an adult content YouTube channel? Like, not adult like X-rated, but just adult subject matter. Why would you use a finger puppet? I mean, yeah, I get it for shits and giggles or whatever, but like, surely you could see the little line there that's kind of like, you might be touching a gray area. Not really sure how you don't see that. But I digress. I digress. I'm sure if I was using puppets or finger puppets, he would say something about me, but because I'm me and he's him, and he thinks he's perfect and he doesn't do anything wrong. So, yeah. Uh, anyways, I do appreciate all of my subby squatters, which is what I call the people that are subscribed to me on my YouTube channel. And if you're listening to this, I'm literally like 5 subscribers away from breaking 300. And I've had my channel for a couple years now. I never really thought that I would even have 50, let alone almost 300. And so if I could break that 300 cap, that would be like so sweet because I've been working hard at getting podcasts and videos up with what I feel is content that you may or may not want to hear about, or topics that I feel like are important that need to be discussed or maybe not be discussed, or maybe have not been discussed as much as they probably should have been. That's what I really enjoy talking about, things that people maybe sometimes find uncomfortable to talk about or don't talk about because of that or for whatever reason. One thing I don't like to do and I almost refuse to do or discuss is politics. I really don't. I don't really like to get into religion too much with people, especially when I don't really know much about their religion anyway. So, you know, uh, but I would love to know what you guys would want to hear more about. If you want to hear more about some of the stuff I talked about today, or what do you want to hear about, I would love to know. So you can leave your thoughts here. You can go and see me on my YouTube channel, which is Gigi's Midnight Rants. I'm also on Reddit as well as Signal. So I'm around. You can find me. I'm also on Facebook. It's not really hard to find me. Also, on my YouTube channel, there's a lot of other creators that I follow and subscribe to, and I have them listed on there as well. So be sure to go check out some of them. And don't forget Caucasian Sasquatch this Saturday. I'm on there. It's called Chilling with Sasquatch. Uh, Go and check that out because you get to learn more about the whole quote, we're chopping it up or chopping it up, chopping it up, whatever. It's not what you think, I promise, but it's actually kind of funny and it's really insightful. I'm glad that I was talked to him about that because I don't think he follows true crime too much. Oh, if you do follow true crime, let me know what your thoughts are. Can't words for garbage. The Carly Russell thing, because we're going to talk about it probably in the next episode, as well as Alexi Treviso, which is a case out of New Mexico with a teenager and she put the baby in the trash can. We're going to talk about that as well in the next episode. But go ahead, just some stuff for you to chew on. Until then, think about, let me know your thoughts. And until then, I will see you guys in the video. Talk to you guys in the next one. Bye. So I got about 19 minutes of that, 28 minutes on there. I swear I'm going to die if the damn audio is not working the way I wanted to. I will just die. Because that would suck. shit I go through all the time. Minding my own business. Thank God I cannot hear him. And I apologize for those of you that can. See, I'm trying to edit and I can't even edit right now. I'm going to have to stop this. This is why I get mad to the extent that I do, y'all. Nobody's even saying anything to him, nor have they been for a while, for at least 30-something minutes. Because I've been fucking busy. I just